They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But when I destroyed her entire career, watching her world crumble piece by piece, I realized that revenge isn't just cold, it's calculated, it's patient, and it's absolutely devastating when done right. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the story. The story of how the woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, betrayed me in the worst possible way, and how I made sure she paid for it. Not with violence, not with anger, but with something far more permanent. I erased her from the industry she loved. I made sure that every door she knocked on was already closed, and I did it all with a smile. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. 3 years ago, I was happy, genuinely, foolishly happy. I had a good job at a prestigious marketing firm in the city, a beautiful girlfriend named Jessica who worked in the same industry, and dreams of building a life together. We'd been together for 4 years. 4 years of shared dinners, weekend getaways, late-night conversations about our future. She was ambitious, driven, and stunning. Everyone told me I was lucky. I believed them. Jessica worked at a competing firm, which we always joked about. Corporate espionage in the bedroom, she'd tease, laughing as she'd steal one of my French fries. We'd made a pact early on never to let work come between us. We kept our professional lives separate, supporting each other's ambitions without interfering. I was a senior account manager, working my way up. The hours were brutal, but I loved it. My boss, Richard Chen, was a legend in the industry. 45 years old, sharp as a knife, with connections that ran deep through every major corporation in the country. Working under him was like getting a masterclass in business strategy every single day. He was demanding, but fair, or so I thought. "Great work on the Morrison account," Richard said one afternoon, clapping me on the shoulder. "You're going places, kid. Keep this up, and we'll be talking about that promotion we discussed." I remember that moment so clearly, the pride swelling in my chest, the thought that everything was falling into place. I texted Jessica immediately. "Boss says promotion is coming. Dinner tonight to celebrate?" Her reply came quickly. "Can't tonight. Working late on a pitch. Tomorrow? Love you." I should have known then, but you don't see the signs when you're in love. You trust. That's your first mistake. The late nights became more frequent. She was working on a big project, she said. Sometimes she wouldn't answer my calls until midnight. "Sorry, babe, you know how it is when we're in the zone," she'd explain, and I'd understand because I'd been there myself. Long nights at the office, surviving on coffee and ambition. Then came the company mixer. Once a quarter, all the major firms in our industry would host a networking event. It was the place to be seen, to make connections, to climb. I was excited because Jessica and I could finally attend something together, show up as the power couple we were becoming. "You look incredible," I told her that evening as we got ready. She was wearing a black dress that hugged her curves perfectly, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. "Thanks, babe," she said, but there was something distant in her eyes, something I couldn't quite read. The event was held at a luxury hotel downtown. The ballroom was packed with industry professionals, all dressed to impress, all working their angles. Jessica and I walked in together, her hand in mine, and I felt like I was on top of the world. That feeling lasted about 20 minutes. I was talking to a colleague from another firm when I noticed Jessica across the room. She was laughing, touching someone's arm in that flirtatious way that made my stomach drop. The someone was Richard, my boss, my mentor, the man who'd promised me a promotion. "Everything okay?" my colleague asked, noticing my distraction. "Yeah, fine," I lied. watching as Richard leaned in close to whisper something in Jessica's ear. She threw her head back, laughing like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. They know each other, I told myself. It's a small industry. It's just networking. But the way his hand lingered on her lower back wasn't networking. The way she looked at him with eyes that sparkled with something more than professional admiration, that wasn't networking either. I walked over, forcing a smile. "Hey, you two know each other?" "Oh," Jessica startled slightly. "Yeah, Richard and I met at that conference last month. Small world, right?" "Very small," Richard said smoothly, extending his hand to shake mine like we hadn't just spent 10 hours together at the office yesterday. "Your girlfriend is quite impressive. We've been discussing some fascinating approaches to digital marketing." The rest of the evening was torture. I watched them gravitate towards each other repeatedly. Every time I check, they'd be in conversation, standing just a little too close, laughing just a little too intimately. "You're being paranoid," Jessica said in the car ride home. "Richard is your boss. I was networking. You know how important connections are in this industry." "The way he was looking at you." "Stop," she cut me off sharply. "I'm not doing this. I'm not going to defend myself for being professional at a professional event. You're acting insecure, and it's not attractive." That shut me up, because maybe I was being insecure. Maybe I was reading too much into innocent interactions. Maybe I was self-sabotaging the best thing in my life. I apologized. Can you believe that? I apologized for noticing that something was wrong. 2 weeks later, Richard called me into his office. Closed the door, and my heart sank. Those 3 words are never good in an office setting. "I'm going to be direct with you," Richard began, leaning back in his expensive leather chair. "Your performance has been slipping. The Chen account, which you were supposed to close last week, is stalling. The presentation you gave on Tuesday was subpar. I'm concerned." I was stunned. "Richard, the Chen account is complex, and I'm waiting on their legal team. The presentation followed your exact notes." "Are you arguing with me?" His tone was sharp, cutting. This wasn't my mentor anymore. This was someone else entirely. "No, sir. I just want to understand what I'm doing wrong so I can fix it." "What you're doing wrong is making excuses. I need team members who take responsibility, who deliver results, not people who point fingers and justify mediocrity." Each word was a knife. I left his office feeling like I'd been hollowed out. Nothing I did after that was good enough. Every project I completed was met with criticism. Every idea I pitched was shot down. Richard was systematically destroying my confidence, my reputation within the firm. And Jessica? She was distant, distracted. "I'm stressed about work," she'd say whenever I'd try to talk about us. "Can we not do this right now?" The truth came on a Thursday night. I'd left the office early, feeling defeated after another brutal meeting with Richard. I just wanted to go home, order takeout, and try to forget about the disaster my career was becoming. But when I pulled into my apartment complex, I saw a car I recognized. Richard's black Mercedes, parked in visitor parking. My heart started pounding. There could be 100 explanations, I told myself. Maybe he's visiting someone else in the building. Maybe it's not even his car. Maybe... I took the elevator up to my floor with dread pooling in my stomach. The hallway was quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat as I approached my door. And then I heard something else. Laughter. Jessica's laughter, coming from inside my apartment. I had my keys in my hand, but I couldn't move. Part of me wanted to turn around, to run, to never face what I knew I'd find on the other side of that door. But another part of me, the part that was tired of doubt and paranoia and feeling crazy, needed to know. I unlocked the door as quietly as possible and pushed it open. The scene that greeted me is burned into my memory forever. My living room, my couch, Jessica was there, her dress half off, wrapped around Richard Chen, my boss, my mentor, the man I trusted, and the woman I loved. They didn't notice me first. They were too busy with each other, too lost in their betrayal. Jessica! My voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. She screamed, jumping away from Richard, scrambling to cover herself. Richard, to his credit, or maybe his arrogance, didn't scramble. He calmly stood up, adjusting his clothes like he'd been caught doing something mildly inappropriate, not destroying my entire life. "It's not what it looks like," Jessica started, and I actually laughed, a horrible, broken sound. "Really? Because it looks like you're screwing my boss, in my apartment, on my couch. I can explain." "How long?" I demanded, looking between them.
They left. Jessica grabbed her things, crying, trying to apologize, but I couldn't hear her anymore. My ears were ringing. My vision was blurred. I was drowning in betrayal, humiliation, and rage. That night was the lowest point of my life. I sat in that apartment, in the dark, staring at the couch where I had found them. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. Every thought spiraled back to the same images, the same realization that everything I'd built, everything I'd believed in, was a lie. The next day at work was worse. Word had spread somehow. The knowing looks from colleagues, the whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. Richard called me into his office. "Given the personal situation," he said, not even having the decency to look uncomfortable, "I think it's best if we part ways. Your performance issues, combined with this complication, make it clear that this isn't the right environment for you anymore. I'm giving you 2 weeks severance and a neutral reference." He was firing me. After sleeping with my girlfriend, after sabotaging my work for months, he was firing me. "You can't do this," I said, though I knew he could. "This is retaliation." "This is business," Richard corrected. "And if you try to make it anything else, if you go to HR or try to cause problems, I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. I have connections everywhere. Your name will be poison. Do you understand?" I understood. I understood that I was powerless, that he held all the cards, that Jessica had chosen him because he had power, money, influence, everything I didn't have. I left that office with my box of personal items, taking the walk of shame past my former colleagues. Some looked sympathetic, most looked away. Nobody defended me. Nobody said a word. For 2 months, I spiraled. I couldn't get out of bed most days. I drained my savings paying rent on an apartment that felt haunted. I saw Jessica's Instagram posts, her with Richard at expensive restaurants, on vacation in Bali, living the life I dreamed we'd have together. She deleted me from her social media, but mutual friends kept me updated, thinking they were being helpful. They weren't. I applied for jobs and got nowhere. Richard had made good on his threat. Every promising interview ended with a cold rejection. I could feel his influence working against me, doors closing before I could even get my foot in them. Rock bottom came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in my apartment, unshowered, surrounded by takeout containers, seriously contemplating giving up entirely. Maybe I'd move back home, I thought. Maybe I'd change careers completely. Maybe this was just how my story ended, broken and defeated by people who were better at the game than I was. My phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Aaron Kim?" a woman's voice asked. I hadn't mentioned my name yet, but that's me. "Yes." "My name is Catherine Rodriguez. I'm a recruiter for Startup Gen, a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. Your resume crossed my desk, and I'm very interested in speaking with you about opportunities in the tech startup space." I was confused. I work in traditional marketing. I don't have a tech background. "That's exactly what makes you valuable," Catherine said. "The tech world is full of engineers who can't market their way out of a paper bag. We're looking for someone who understands traditional business but can adapt to the startup ecosystem. Your portfolio is impressive." My portfolio? I hadn't updated my portfolio in months. The Morrison campaign? The Chen strategy proposal? That's exactly the kind of innovative thinking our portfolio companies need. Those were projects from before everything fell apart, before Richard started sabotaging me, proof that I'd actually been good at my job. "I'm interested," I said, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than despair. I felt a spark of hope. The interview process was intense. Catherine wasn't kidding about Startup Gen standards. 3 rounds of interviews, a presentation, a full-day workshop with their team. But something clicked. This wasn't the stuffy political world of traditional corporate marketing. This was fast, aggressive, hungry. These people wanted to disrupt industries, to break the old rules and write new ones. I got the offer on a Friday afternoon. Senior marketing strategist for Startup Gen's portfolio companies, with equity, a competitive salary, and something more valuable than either, a chance to prove myself again. I accepted immediately. The tech startup world was brutal but exhilarating. I worked 16-hour days, but I loved it. I was helping companies grow from idea stage to multi-million-dollar valuations. I learned about technology, venture capital, scale strategies. I met founders who were changing the world. And most importantly, I got good, really good. Within 6 months, I'd helped 3 companies in the Startup Gen portfolio successfully launch and secure Series A funding. My name started circulating in tech circles. People wanted me on their teams. Catherine promoted me to Director of Marketing Strategy. "You're a different person than the man I interviewed," Catherine told me over coffee one morning. "What changed?" I thought about it. I learned that being betrayed doesn't mean you're worthless. It means you trusted the wrong people, and that's their failure, not mine. By the end of my first year, I'd saved enough to launch my own marketing consultancy on the side, focusing on tech startups. My client list grew rapidly. I was making more money than I'd ever dreamed of at the traditional firm. More importantly, I was building my own reputation, my own network, my own power. I'd avoided thinking about Jessica and Richard. I'd blocked them on social media, avoided industry events where they might appear, focused entirely on my own growth. Revenge hadn't been my plan. Success was the plan. Proving them wrong was the plan. But then fate, or karma, intervened. I was at a major marketing conference in Las Vegas, speaking on a panel on disrupting traditional marketing through tech integration. The panel went well. Standing ovation, multiple people asking for my card. I was riding high as I walked out of the conference room into the networking lounge. And there she was, Jessica. She looked different, thinner, more expensive, designer dress, Cartier bracelet, perfect makeup. She was with Richard, of course, both of them working the room like the power couple they believed they were. Our eyes met across the room. I saw shock flash across her face, followed by something else. Recognition, maybe regret. I could have walked away, should have walked away, but I didn't. I walked straight towards them. "Aaron," Jessica breathed as I approached. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Why would you?" I said pleasantly. "Last you knew, I'd been blacklisted from the industry." Richard's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here?" "I just finished speaking on the main stage, panel on marketing disruption through technology, but you probably missed it. I know traditional corporate types don't usually attend those sessions." The subtle dig landed. I could see Richard's jaw tighten. "You're working in tech now?" Jessica asked, and I couldn't quite read her tone. "Running my own consultancy, actually, specializing in startups. It's been an incredible year." "That's great," Jessica said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. "I'm glad you landed on your feet." "Oh, I did more than land on my feet, Jessica. I flew." An uncomfortable silence stretched between us. Richard broke it. "Well, we should get going. Meetings to attend." "Of course," I said smoothly. "Although, Richard, I heard your firm lost the Morrison account. That must have been disappointing. They're with one of my clients now, actually. Small world." His face went red. The Morrison account, my account, the one I'd built the relationship for, had apparently left his firm. I'd heard about it through industry channels, but hadn't connected the dots until that moment. "We let them go," Richard said stiffly. "Not the right fit." "Interesting, because Marcus Morrison told me they left because they felt the strategic direction was lacking. He sends his regards, by the way. We're having dinner tomorrow night." I wasn't trying to twist the knife. Okay, maybe I was, a little. But seeing Richard's pompous expression crack, seeing Jessica look at me with something like awe, it felt good. Really good. That encounter changed something in me. I realized I wasn't the broken man they'd destroyed anymore. I'd rebuilt myself into someone stronger, someone better. And suddenly, success wasn't enough. I wanted them to understand the full weight of what they'd done. I wanted justice. Not revenge, justice. The opportunity came 3 months later. One of my biggest clients, a marketing automation startup called Flowmetrics, was preparing for a major expansion. They needed someone to head up their marketing department, not a consultant, a CMO, someone who could build the team, own the strategy, scale the brand. "We want you," the CEO told me. "Name your price." I was tempted. It was a huge opportunity. But then an idea formed. "I'm interested," I said, "but I want equity and a say in hiring decisions for the entire senior team." We negotiated. I got what I wanted, a significant equity stake and control over building the team. Flowmetrics was going to disrupt the traditional marketing agency model, and I was going to be at the helm. The first thing I did was research the market. Who were the major players we'd be competing against? Which traditional firms would see us as a threat? Richard's firm, Chen and Associates, was at the top of the list. I smiled. Over the next 6 months, I built Flowmetrics into a machine. We hired the best talent, young, hungry marketers who were tired of the old boys club at traditional firms. We offered better pay, better culture, equity stakes. People were leaving established firms to work with us. One of those people was Jennifer Zhao, who'd worked with Jessica at her firm. We met at a networking event, and she was immediately interested in Flowmetrics. "I'm so tired of the politics," Jennifer confided over drinks. "My current firm is a nightmare. The leadership is problematic." "Tell me about it," I encouraged. She didn't need much prompting. The stories poured out. Jessica had gotten promoted rapidly after she started dating Richard. People at her firm knew about the relationship, and it created resentment. She'd been given preferential treatment, plum accounts, opportunities others had earned. "She's good," Jennifer admitted, "but she's not that good, you know? And the way she acts now, like she's untouchable because she's with Richard Chen, it's toxic." "What if I told you that you could work somewhere that values actual merit, where relationships don't matter more than results?" Jennifer became my director of client strategy, and she wasn't the only one. Over the next few months, I recruited 6 more people from traditional firms, all talented, all undervalued, all hungry to prove themselves. The exodus caught people's attention. Flowmetrics went from unknown startup to major player in less than a year. We were winning pitches against established firms. We were poaching clients. We were disrupting the old model. And I made sure everyone knew my name was attached to it. The tech press loved the story. Former traditional marketer becomes tech disruptor. Startup Gen success story shakes up industry. The new guard of marketing. I gave interviews, spoke at conferences, built my personal brand. I wasn't hiding. I was everywhere, making sure Richard and Jessica couldn't miss my rise. Then came the turning point. Chen and Associates was struggling. They'd lost key clients to firms like mine. Their traditional model wasn't adapting fast enough to the digital shift. They needed a major win to stay relevant. The same pitch we were going for. A Fortune 500 company looking to completely overhaul their marketing strategy with a tech-forward approach. The contract was worth 8 figures. It would make or break the year for whoever won it. I prepared for that pitch like it was war. My team worked around the clock. We built a presentation that wasn't just good, it was revolutionary. We showed them exactly how Flowmetrics would transform their brand using technology, data, and innovation that traditional firms couldn't match. The day of the pitch, I arrived early, and I saw Richard in the lobby, also waiting. He looked older, tired. The confidence that had always radiated from him seemed dimmed. He saw me and his expression hardened. "Aaron." "Richard, you didn't realize you were pitching for this." "Really? You didn't do your research?"
That doesn't sound like the Richard Chen who taught me to always know your competition. A muscle twitched in his jaw. This is a big account, not really appropriate for a startup. Flowmetrics isn't a startup anymore. We're a major firm with impressive results, but you'd know that if you were paying attention to the market instead of resting on your reputation. The receptionist called my name before Richard could respond. I walked into that boardroom and delivered the best pitch of my life. Passionate, detailed, innovative. I showed them exactly why the old model was dying and why Flowmetrics was the future. 2 weeks later, we got the contract. The news spread through the industry like wildfire. Flowmetrics, the upstart firm, had beaten out Chen & Associates and 3 other established agencies for a Fortune 500 account. Our valuation doubled overnight. Job applications flooded in. Clients called wanting to work with us. I'd proven the old guard was dying. But I wasn't done with Jessica yet. She'd reached out after we won the contract, sending a LinkedIn message. "Congratulations on the win. You've done amazing things. I always knew you were talented." I didn't respond immediately. I let her sit with it. Then, a week later, I replied, "Thanks. Just proves that talent matters more than connections. Good luck with everything." Polite, professional, devastating. Because here's what Jessica didn't know. Her firm was struggling too. The preferential treatment she'd received had made her unpopular with colleagues. Some of her major wins had been questionable, accounts that Richard had directed to her rather than ones she'd won on merit. And now, with Chen & Associates losing ground, that protection was disappearing. I heard through my network that she was looking to make a move, updating her portfolio, reaching out to recruiters, testing the market. She wanted to jump to a more stable firm before Chen & Associates went down. The problem was, my name carried weight now, and I'd built relationships with every major firm that might hire someone at her level. I didn't have to actively sabotage her. I just had to make sure people knew the full story. When recruiters called me for references, and they did, I was honest. Jessica is talented, but in my experience working in the same industry, her rapid rise was connected to her relationship with Richard Chen rather than exceptional performance. You should evaluate her work independently and speak to people who worked with her before that relationship began. Honest, factual, devastating. Doors started closing for Jessica. Not all at once, but slowly, steadily. The jobs she was qualified for went to other candidates. The firms she interviewed with passed. Her LinkedIn activity increased. More posts, more networking, signs of desperation. Richard's firm faced worse problems. The loss of major clients, the exodus of talent, the failure to adapt, it all caught up. Chen & Associates announced they were downsizing, restructuring. Code for, "We're failing." Richard stepped down as CEO, remaining as a consultant. Translation, he was forced out by partners who blamed him for the firm's decline. And Jessica? She was let go in the restructuring. I saw her one more time, at another industry conference 6 months later. She approached me at the bar, and I could see the change in her. The designer clothes were still there, but the confidence was gone. "Aaron," she said quietly, "can we talk?" "Of course." We found a quiet corner. She looked at me with eyes that were tired, sad, defeated. "I know what you did," she said without preamble. "The references, the networking, making sure doors closed for me." "I gave honest assessments when asked," I replied calmly. "I never lied about you." "But you made sure people knew about me and Richard, about how I got ahead." "I made sure people knew the truth, Jessica. That's not revenge. That's honesty." "Richard and I broke up," she said after a moment, "after he lost his position. Turns out he was more interested in my connections than in me. Funny how that works. I didn't feel satisfaction at that news. I didn't feel anything." "I'm sorry you're going through a hard time," I said, and I meant it. "But you made choices, Jessica. You knew what you were doing was wrong and you did it anyway. You didn't care who you hurt. Now you're experiencing the aftermath of those choices." "I did love you," she whispered. "At the beginning, before everything got complicated." "Maybe you did," I acknowledged. "But love without loyalty is just a word. You threw away something real for something shiny. That was your choice." She left shortly after that conversation. I heard later that she eventually found work at a smaller firm, rebuilding her career from a much lower position. Richard's name largely disappeared from the industry, his reputation tarnished. As for me, Flowmetrics continued to grow. We expanded internationally, opened new offices, won awards. I became a sought-after speaker, a thought leader, someone whose opinion shaped the industry. I eventually started dating again, a product manager I met at a tech conference. Her name is Sarah, and she's brilliant, kind, and ambitious in her own right. We build each other up rather than tearing each other down. It's what a real partnership looks like. Looking back, I don't regret what I did. Some people might say I went too far, that revenge isn't the answer. But I didn't get revenge. I got justice. I made sure that someone who used relationships and connections to get ahead.
The truth is, betrayal can break you, or it can forge you into something unbreakable. I chose the latter. I chose to let the pain fuel my ambition rather than drown me. I chose to prove that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest advantage you can have. Because while Richard and Jessica were busy celebrating their victory over me, I was quietly building an empire. And by the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. So yes, she slept with my boss. And yes, I destroyed her entire career. But I did it the right way, through success, through merit, through being undeniably better than the people who tried to keep me down. That's not revenge, that's justice, and it tastes so much sweeter than I ever imagined. The lesson I learned? Never underestimate someone you've betrayed, because you never know who they'll become. You never know what they're capable of when they have nothing left to lose and everything to prove. And always remember, karma doesn't have to come from the universe. Sometimes it comes from the person you underestimated. Sometimes it comes from someone who's patient enough to play the long game and smart enough to win it. I didn't just get my revenge. I became the person they wish they'd never crossed. I became someone they can never touch again. And that, more than anything else, is the ultimate victory.